Hey folks, thanks for listening to another edition of the Veritas Road Podcast. Before we get going, we wanted to introduce you guys to our new sponsor. I'm super excited about it, Fnx Fitness. I've been using their recovery protein powder for a while now. It's absolutely delicious. They've got a full array of fitness supplements. Murph's been using their Relax supplement, which seems to be working for him.
Yeah, that's right. It's very relaxing. If you want 15% off of both these items and more, just type in Veritas Road 15, all little letters at checkout. That's Veritas Road 15, and it helps everybody out.
Yeah, guys, thanks for listening, and now on to the show. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of the Veritas Road. Carson back here with Murph post-Christmas, finally. Murph, what's going on, man?
Yeah, that's right. It's the new year. It's 2021, so lots of stuff to look forward to.
Dude, finally 2021. Let's talk about it. I mean, how's 2020 been, bro?
2020 was real bad. It's real cliche to say because everybody 2020 is bad, but it was bad. Real rough as far as just socially, because everything was shut down and lots of stuff going on. And I know my personal life, I'm sure yours too, but we don't have to get into that. But why did I even say that? I don't know. But it's been a rough year.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. I mean, so what are you looking forward to in 2021, man?
Hoping everything just calms down and gets back to how it was, and hopefully also the Vols will not be terrible this fall. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay. Setting your lofty goals.
Yes. I clearly have many good life goals, and all of that is completely pointless.
Fair enough.
What about you?
I mean, I'm looking forward to hopefully finding some gainful employment.
That would be
nice.
You're on the job hunt.
I am on the job hunt big time. So if you're listening and you know anybody who's looking for a worker in the health and wellness field, give me a call.
Or put $10,000 in Patreon or subscribe stuff.
Right. That also would help.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe looking at going back to school to be a chiropractor. So we'll see.
That's it. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with what we're going to talk about tonight? To try to transition?
I mean, that does a little bit.
I know that's your job to transition.
Right.
I just thought I'd give it a go.
Thanks for the clumpy transition.
Yeah. Was it real bad?
I mean, it could have been better, but it could have been worse.
Well, then you transition. What are we talking about tonight?
I mean, so one of the things that's gone on, I guess, in 2021, obviously has been the coronavirus and all the craziness that's been going on with that. But one of the prevailing themes I've noticed in the health and wellness world over the past 10 or 15 years since I've really become attuned to it, is the way we kind of look at the human body as being this dirty thing now.
Yeah, almost like it's inherently broken, maybe.
Yeah, like we expect illness to just be a natural part of the human body. And I mean, the first question you have to ask yourself in a discussion like that is, what is health and what is disease, right? And so, how would you describe health and how would you describe disease?
Health, you have to say good health and bad health, right? Like health isn't good or bad. It's just the state of your physical body, maybe. Okay, so that would be how I define it. Health is the state of your physical body. But whether or not that is naturally or inherently good or bad is, I guess, what we're going to talk about tonight.
Well, to answer the question I asked, health being the good health, referring to good health. Okay. What is good health and what is disease?
Okay, so that's now been clarified. Good health is if you think of your body as like an engine, it's like the engine's running optimally with no issues and minimal snags, I guess. That's one analogy that came to my mind immediately. Disease would be obviously an inhibition, or not inhibition, an inhibitor in said functions that I just previously described.
Yeah.
So if your engine is not running smoothly, or if an engine oil change, or if it busted a piston, or if it's leaking, like it's a mess up in what should be a smoothly running system or a smoothly running function.
Yeah. Okay.
So that would be my answer to your question.
I think it's a pretty interesting answer. So there are two prevailing schools of thought on what is health and what is disease. The first being the typical Western school of thought, right? And in that health is the absence of disease, right? That is the way we think of it here in the States, generally speaking.
Yeah, that's kind of what Taught growing up, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Like, oh, you don't have diabetes, you must be healthy. You're not obese, so you must be healthy. You don't have the flu, so you're healthy. The flip side of that coin is that health is the presence of the term I think of is like vivaciousness, like a life force that is positive and good. And that sounds a little like hippie, wishy-washy, but to put it in terms that are a little more easy to understand, like we've all met people who just have this inherent warmth, this liveliness, this joie de vivre, you know.
Whoa, that was fancy. They've got the positive energy.
Yeah, and you know, I tend to look at that now more as health. As time goes on, that, you know, I look at it as this symbiotic relationship between me and my environment and the people around me, not just, oh, well, I don't have the flu.
Yeah, as well as the body and the mind.
Yeah.
Synergy as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it, man. I like it. That's a pretty all-encompassing and pretty different from the mainstream, though.
Yeah. Well, so those ideas are by no means new, right? So we've heard of germ theory back in the day, right? Like Louis Pasteur and all those people.
Louis Pasteur.
And as with all good science stories, there was a guy he was at odds with, right? Because like you got like Nikola Tesla and
Thomas Edison. Tesla was the real scientist. We can talk about that later.
You had Alexander Graham Bell and whoever he was trying to beat, you know, against the clock to invent the phone.
Yeah, you had the Wright brothers and then that other person in France.
Yeah, there's always that other scientist guy who's trying to come up with it before you. And so everybody's heard of Louis Pasteur. Like he's the father of germ theory. And he basically came up with the idea that there are these infinitesimally small beings out there that exist and could perhaps invade your body and make you sick. And so that's where we got the idea of pasteurization. That's why we heat milk to make it sterile.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, that's why we do all of these things. They arise from germ theory. Well, at the same time he was doing his thing, maybe a little bit later, there was this guy called Claude Bernard and another guy named Antoine Béchamp. And they introduced the world to something that's now called terrain theory.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
And terrain theory basically is the idea that the body functions is always looking to maintain homeostasis, which is a term, you know, you become pretty familiar with in elementary school. But this functional homeostasis really is the main driver in how our health is determined.
Yeah, we should very quickly define homeostasis, just in case some people don't know what that is.
So homeostasis being the body's desire to maintain what it is at.
Yes,
right?
The status quo.
So it wants to stay at 98.6 degrees. It wants to stay at, 168 pounds. It wants to stay wherever it's at that particular time.
Right.
And so they presented the idea that there's basically a healthy terrain, a healthy body and environment that the body's placed in that allows your body to handle potentially pathogenic microorganisms that could invade. Because the way they looked at it, like that's inevitable, right?
Yeah.
If you take a look at the New York subway, or if you take a look at the floor in the house we're standing in right now, if you take a look at my skin, it's all crawling in germs, right?
Okay, well,
always. I don't care how much you sterilize.
Yeah, crawling in bacteria, yeah.
And so the best way to ensure that you remain healthy is to make sure that those two terrains are balanced with one another. That you're existing in an environment that is healthy and that promotes honest to goodness actual health.
What do you mean by in balance with one another? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Well, so I don't know. Let's take where we live here in Tennessee, right?
Right.
It wouldn't make sense for me to live the same lifestyle and eat the same diet as somebody who lives down in, I don't know, Mexico, where it's much warmer and there are different bacteria and things like that.
I think I understand what you're saying. You're saying that your lifestyle and environment, your lifestyle should kind of match the natural environment you're in.
Yeah, and that kind of inoculates you against any potential pathogens that could exist in your environment.
Okay.
And
making sense now.
These two theories kind of competed with one another until inevitably, Louis Pasteur's is still the one. I mean, you don't hear about terrain theory really at all.
I had never heard of that until right now. So.
Yeah. And so they competed with one another. Obviously, Louis Pasteur won out. But the crazy thing is that on his deathbed, Louis Pasteur said, and this is a quote: "The microbe is nothing. The milieu is everything." Basically saying that these individual microbes, the milieu, the stuff, milieu is a French word.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm not a French scholar, but
okay. Well, you threw out that big old thing you just said earlier, so you sure sounded French. Sorry, I should have interrupted that quote. Say it again. The
microbe is nothing. The milieu is everything.
Basically, on his deathbed.
On his deathbed. That was, yeah.
So he's probably being honest.
Yeah, right. That seems to be when people share their most honest, real thoughts. And so, I mean, what does that mean for modern... The father of modern germ theory kind of recanted it there at the end. What do you think that means?
Dude, I don't know enough about Louis Pasteur to say anything other than he was in a certain club. But that does seem to be like the foundation of everything the Western medicine world preaches seems to be a little shaky. If the father of said Western medical world ideas said it was all, or he was mistaken at the end of his life, like doesn't that kind of shake things up a little bit? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does.
So where's the shaking? Where's the pushback?
Well, I mean, there is some. I mean, there are definitely in the alternative health community. There's a lot of pushback right now. Terrain theory has gained a ton of ground during 2020 because of all the virus and vaccine talk. But even I've been studying this stuff for the past several years. Hadn't even heard about it until like April of this year. And so the idea is starting to gain ground, but it's slow going, considering the whole healthcare system is dominated by a germ theory focus. And to just go ahead and head this discussion off, nobody is denying the existence of germs. They are very real.
That's right.
And
I mean, you can see them in a microscope.
Yeah, they're inside and on you and all over. It's just the way we interact with these germs that we're talking about.
I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I would say that you're right. The interaction between the bacteria and the human body has been greatly misunderstood for a long time.
Oh, hugely. Yeah. I mean, look at how often antibiotics are prescribed at this point.
Yeah, for everything.
Crazy.
For literally everything. Like, you got a cold, a bunch of antibiotics. You got strep, antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll talk about that a little later in this tonight. But
yeah. So, I mean... The first thing I guess I thought of when I was looking in through this was, I mean, there's been a lot of vaccine discussion this year. There's been a lot of dissent about it.
Yeah.
And what does that mean in light of maybe a slightly different theory on how this health stuff works? I mean, how do you think that would change the outlook on, the vaccination schedule as it stands, or maybe a new coronavirus vaccine? How do you think that would change things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you had to ask the question, like, can your body fight off or handle or deal with these things, with these germs, these viruses, or these disease, for lack of a better word? I don't like that. I know you probably don't either. But can your body fend off these things naturally, or do you need something else? Like, that's the question you got to ask.
And that's a really great question. And one of the first things I think about when you pose that question, there are a couple things, actually. Consider, like, some of these third world countries where you, like, maybe you go on a mission trip or something and everybody's like, don't drink the water. You'll get sick.
They do. They preach that. I went to Mexico.
The people there
preach that all the time. Yeah. But they could drink that water and nothing was wrong.
And they're fine. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference? They're living in harmony with the terrain and you're not. That's the difference. Children, when children are exposed to, like those people, when children are exposed to potential pathogens at a young age, it's crazy. One, how quickly they recover, and two, how well they'll incorporate new microbiota and bacteria into their body's immune system, be perfectly fine, and it kind of inoculates them against further disease later on in life. It's crazy.
Yeah, isn't like part of the point of the immune system to do that? Like you have an inherent immune system that is trying to fight off that stuff, and how is it going to get better and learn? Because all systems of your body is getting building upon itself and getting better. So how's it going to do that if you're like stunting its growth immediately by trying to make your own version of it?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're exactly right.
I mean, but to counter that, but you could also be like, well, what about all the people that's died of all these diseases? But then now those numbers are way down. Like, I don't know. I guess that would be somebody's counter argument. Of course, then you could say, well, how many of these, like, what else was going on when all these diseases were like ramped up and ramped down? Like, what was people's food like? What was the environment like? So,
yeah,
I don't know.
And I mean, you can take a longer look at things like that. Like, there's a lot of weird stuff that happened around like when the polio stuff went on back in the day.
Polio is one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Because like around the time the polio vaccine was coming out, like the disease was already kind of going away.
Yeah. And
what I understand.
So I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't have the timeline in front of me, but the very muddled Skyview version was that I think the CDC changed like the definition of the diagnosis of polio around the time that they were treating it, and so it appeared that the numbers
that makes sense.
Went way down. Not to say that whatever they were doing was completely ineffective, but it's hard to tell.
If you're changing the baseline halfway through the thing, then it's hard to know what's going on.
Yeah, it could have been the best thing since sliced bread, could have been the worst, but you don't know if you change the game in the middle.
Yeah, I didn't know that, so thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's super interesting. If you ever get a chance, look into that. And I encourage anybody listening to, because it's fascinating. But we appear to approach people and kids with this inherent understanding. It's almost like we don't even have to be taught that their bodies just naturally are dirty and can be infected at the drop of a hat. And how sad is that? You can't live life afraid of every little thing that's going to go on.
Yeah, that's no way to interact with people, even if that's true, and from a Christian perspective, that's no way to interact with people, but you got to ask, well, is that even true? Like, how can you view someone, another human, as a potential threat to yourself, like an infectious threat to yourself? That almost takes away people's humanity almost.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I don't know. It's just heartbreaking when people look at a little baby. I had this happen a while back. I was at work and somebody was mad that this woman's unvaccinated kids were in the building. And she was like, man, if those kids get my kids sick, I'm gonna pitch a fit. I'm going to fight her. I was like, well, are your kids vaccinated? Well, yeah. Well, then what are you worried about?
Yeah, because
looking at these pure, unadulterated, brand new babies like they're this satanic symbol. And it's so sad. Like, this is a brand new, precious baby, and she's afraid of it and mad that it's near her. That's heartbreaking. Yeah,
that's bizarre psychology, because like you said, well, if you've got a vaccine against a certain disease, then why do you care if somebody else doesn't? Right?
Right, yeah.
Because you're protected against it.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah, that's the theory. I mean, but theories are theories. I mean, we can talk about that all day long.
Right.
But on top of that, like you were also saying, how can you get mad at a child? Like, it's not the child's fault.
No, yeah.
You can't look down on a child for what they may or may not have. Like,
yeah.
It's really sad that someone would view a brand new life in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, if kids are so dangerous, if they're so dirty, if they're so gross, how did we even make it this far?
Exactly. How in the world have we made it this far? Because all these vaccines and shots and medicine, all this stuff is basically within the past 150 years. So
yeah.
How did we make it for thousands of years?
Right. Yeah, we didn't have a vaccine schedule until
that's right.
Like the 50s or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so, I mean, are we just inherently diseased? Is that a part of who we are as human beings? I mean, you look at you take different viewpoints, like either evolutionarily speaking, evolution in the eyes of, I think, most scientists is this almost perfect process, right? That selects for whatever is going to continue to reproduce. We're obviously still here. We're obviously still reproducing.
They would say chance plus time equals perfect survival.
Right. And so why are we trying to interfere with that? And why do we just assume that evolution has just apparently failed and that these newborn kids are just gross and disgusting. Option B, though, is a creator, a designer. Did that designer just inherently create us to be flawed and dirty and messed up and sick? Is that a part of who we are? Or is it not?
Are you asking me, or is that rhetorical?
A little bit of both.
Okay, well, audience, you can take care of the rhetorical part. I would say not even slightly. Not even slightly. Let's come at it from an evolutionary perspective. Okay, natural selection is the process by which the weak organisms are weeded out through challenges in their environment, and then the strongest thing emerges victorious and reproduces, and that becomes, and then repeat that process over and over again. Right. So if we're at this point, therefore we're the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, right.
And well, the only counter I can think of that would be, well, maybe all these shots and medicine and vaccine and stuff, well, maybe that is part of the natural selection process.
I mean, perhaps it is, and there's the argument that a lot of selection pressures are just gone now because of modern society, but but I mean, the point still stands that if we're here, then we're the best version of what we could possibly be based on that worldview. Don't you think? Yeah,
because otherwise we'd be dead.
Right.
It's pretty simple to understand.
Only two options there.
So why are we messing with something that has in a definition of chance, it's perfect,
right?
Because it exists.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. So I don't know, unless there's. I don't know, that whole thing, evolution just doesn't make sense to me because of that. Because then it'd be like, well, are we ever going to reach the perfection? Are we ever going to reach the point where we're fully evolved? So I don't know. I don't want to get caught down that rabbit hole. But then you go down on the other side. Did the creator, or did the whatever created us, did they make us inherently bad by nature? Like, who in the world... Are you going to look into baby and say that's inherently damaged?
Right, yeah.
Well, the only way you could say that, okay, if you're going to say that, well, then the genes of the mother and the genes of the father have been damaged.
Right.
Right? So how does that happen? Are they inherently flawed because their genes are flawed, or can environment affect the code that goes into the new body,
Right.
And I would tend to say the second way, because I don't understand DNA very well, but in its original, maybe in the original one, that was probably perfect. And then an environmental thing has been messing with it, as opposed to a flaw in the design itself. Does that make sense? Because,
that makes sense.
Because, I mean, you can look and just see how people can heal.
Yeah.
That right there, just heal on their own.
Right.
Or heal based on unaltered stuff, right? Unaltered foods.
Yeah. The way people can heal when they participate in and with their natural environment.
Right. I mean, it's
incredible.
You can rattle off a list of books that people can read about that. Deep Nutrition comes to my mind immediately.
Yeah, the one that I would want to point out here, though, is called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration by Weston Price. And, love or hate the Weston Price Foundation, that's up to you. I'm a fan, but... one of the things that he noticed, kind of what you're talking about, is the way that cultures who hadn't been touched by modern society, and when I say modern society, I mean modern industrialized society and the foods and lifestyle that go along with it. He traveled the world looking at peoples who hadn't been affected by that, and he had to go to some crazy remote places. But what he found, the weird thing that he found, was that even in some of these villages that did have a little bit of contact with folks, which means that they should be infected by these modern new diseases, that they, should have all these issues that supposedly come with modern lifestyle, like tuberculosis was a big one, that they had this one superior moral character. That was one of the first things he noted in the book, is that these people morally and intellectually were far beyond anybody he had ever met, but that too, they seemed to be relatively unaffected by disease and tooth decay, which is what he was really looking at, but that their TB rates were super low. They'd have little to no cavities, dental caries, and all of this without the aid of modern medicine or food. So what was keeping these people from getting sick?
That's right. I mean, that brings a whole host of questions. So immediately what I think of when you're saying all that is to go back to try to tie this to what I was just saying, that it's not the body's inherently bad.
Right, exactly.
Because he found people that were isolated and just living the same culture that they had, like probably since the origination of their type of people. I mean, you talk about certain remote lifestyles are old.
Yeah, they are.
So that's closer to the source of whatever humans are.
Right.
And there's way less flaws.
Yeah.
So that right there proves that the body is not inherently flawed. So why are we messing with it?
Yeah.
And two, that also makes me think, and we don't have to talk about this because it's not that related, but, well, what about all the, like when Columbus like came over from Europe and he infected like all the Indians with smallpox? I mean, what about that?
I mean, that's a fair question.
Did that happen? But I guess.
I mean, my only thinking there is that perhaps, perhaps you're dealing with this. I mean, smallpox is supposedly a viral infection. And so, I don't know. I really don't understand what happened there specifically. It's never made any sense to me.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it because, I mean, how do you even know that happened? We're just always told that. And there's no, I mean, and that was like 500 years ago. So I
mean, supposedly there is a lot of evidence of, entire cities being wiped out by smallpox.
Is it just...
But it makes you wonder. So this is the way I think about it. The American Indians had what amounted to, maybe in separate tribes, but like this vast empire that expanded across the entire Americas.
Especially in South America, yeah.
And then their environment changed. A bunch of random people came and carried with them the diseases of the modern day. And these folks were not able or ready to adapt to their new environment. I mean, that's... At least if you're going to take a terrain theory view of that, that's what happened.
That's true. I guess that could be true because they immediately started plundering stuff and introducing their way of life into the culture. And it would probably take like one generation for that to screw up a lot of their kids, and then there you go. It's just
the thing I wonder about, I guess, is like, were these folks still living their traditional way of life when they died out, or were they adopting new and different practices?
Yeah, that's an excellent question or a question to respond to that whole narrative of the Europeans infecting all the Indians and killing them all. Yeah. Well, and it was more than obviously infections because they were just like straight up brutal and just murdered them. But,
absolutely terrible.
But they say that the biggest killer was the infections.
Right.
So that's I don't know. I just thought of that when you were talking about Weston Price, but obviously the body's not inherently flawed. To get back to that, I mean, there's proof in cultures that are unaffected by what you might call modern culture. So what does that say about modern culture? It almost seems like a cancer. But.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And we live now in the States. We just expect. We expect all of these things. Well, you're getting older. It's just part of getting older.
That's right. Oh, we hear that all the time. I mean, you save for be sure you save for your retirement. Be sure you got good insurance because you're going to need it.
Yeah.
Like it goes hand in hand with living is to expect massive healthcare costs and issues.
Yeah.
And like it's literally part of your work and job. It's like built into that.
This eventuality that
you're like through Obamacare.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This eventuality that your body is just going to
shut down.
Yeah, shut down, fall apart, and that there's nothing you can do about it because your body's diseased. Period. There's no discussion after that. Your body's diseased. Go get your pills to fix it and move on. And
there's never a why is your body diseased. It's just basically said disease is because disease is. It's never like, well, is there something I'm doing that's causing this disease, or is it just part of the world we live in?
Right.
And I mean, y'all can clearly see from our talking here that I think it's more it's stuff that you're doing as opposed to the nature of life.
Yeah, right.
And stuff that you're doing can affect the terrain.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But I don't think disease is inherent in the code of a human.
Yeah, no, I think we can pretty categorically say that it's not at this point.
Or if it is inherent in the code of a human, then that means it came from the mother or the father whose code had been damaged.
Right.
Because when you get back to the source, like we've just beating this horse to death, like Weston Price he did in his book. It was unaltered, undamaged. So what happened? Like,
you want to talk about what happened?
I don't know if you want to, but that's what you have to ask.
Yeah. What made us susceptible to modern disease, to all these, these bacteria, all these viruses. Whatever
at this point, we are generation upon generation upon generation of a way different lifestyle than traditional human lifestyle.
Yeah,
and you can see the reflections in society. You could see that reflected in society, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And just the downhillness of it all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so the next question after that, I guess, is what do you do about it?
Well, I think the first step is to acknowledge it.
Perhaps.
Because, that's never talked about in medical school. That's never talked about. Well, I don't know that because I've never been to medical school, but obviously it. You know what I'm trying to say, though.
I mean, I've taken a pretty good look at medical school curriculum, and it's not.
That's not pushed in doctors' offices in what we understand to be healthcare. The model there is, here is a pill made in a factory to to push your problem down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
That's the model, as opposed to fixing what's wrong with you. So the first, I guess, to answer your question, the first step is to completely redefine the way you think about disease, because otherwise you're never going to get anywhere.
Right. Nobody in a doctor's office is asking what is health and how do I get there. They're asking what can I take to cover up this problem.
Yes, or to not even that anymore. It's not even that anymore. It's to stop the symptoms,
to stop feeling pain. Man, that's another thing. One of the people who's become one of my favorite people over the past 8 months, I guess, Dr. Tommy John. He talks about how you heal you, but only if you can feel you.
Ooh, I like that quote.
Yeah, it's a cool little quote. So shout out to Dr. Tommy John.
Baseball, everyone, baseball.
But he's dead right. We sell so much stuff now to ensure that you can't feel what's going on with your body. And
that's right.
Unfortunately, because of our lifestyle, because we don't live in harmony with our terrain, it is almost inevitable that you're going to get injured, or that you're going to, get a little cold, or you're going to get a little sick, or you're going to be stressed, or you're not going to get enough sleep, whatever. And that's then going to cause some discomfort, right?
Yes.
Something unpleasant is going to happen.
That's right. And when you build that over time, it becomes disease, and your body starts to break down.
Right. But what people start to do, instead of allow themselves to feel what's going on and then search for the root cause and fix it, we take a pain pill. We go to the doctor and get a prescription.
Get a cortisone shot.
Yeah. We go get some SSRIs to
don't know what that is, but all right.
It's a serotonin reuptake inhibitor.
Okay, of course.
It's for mental health.
Okay, I get it.
We do things that keep us from feeling, so that we feel better. You just want to feel better, and it makes it almost impossible to really feel what's going on with your body.
Right, because the whole reason you're having these bad feelings in the first place, or pain or problems with your body, is because your body's trying to tell you maybe the fuel you're giving me or the components that cause me to work is degraded, and it's not adequate. So that is reflecting in the functions of the body. Because ideally you would want your mind, body, soul, spirit, and we don't have to talk about what all that is right now. You would want that to be as close to harmonious as possible, which, based on your worldview, it probably was in the source of whatever humans are.
Right. Back when,
whatever you consider that to be. I know we've had this paleo talk before, but either way, it doesn't matter. The point is, you want to be closer to that source,
right?
Because that's when it was functioning better.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've got a pretty solid understanding of how that works. Well done.
Thank you, I guess.
I'm kind of proud of you.
Okay. I don't know how to respond to that. That's like when someone tells you happy birthday. Thank you. Happy birthday to you, too.
Yeah. The next question that brings up for me, though, is, how do you start down that journey, especially in a society where pretty much
that's right,
all the wrong methods are subsidized
that's right.
by insurance companies.
This is when we turn into filthy hypocrites. How do you start on that journey, Carson? Because if you know the answer to that, please tell me.
I mean, I'm trying. By no means perfect. I mean, it's an everyday thing. It's waking up every day and trying to do a little bit better than the day before. And if that's, maybe I'm drinking 12 Cokes a day and I get 4 hours of sleep a night, my relationships are terrible. Well, maybe that means smiling at somebody at work. Maybe that's what that means for you. Maybe it means going home and not watching the news, but reading something uplifting. Maybe it means taking 10 minutes a day to meditate. Whatever that is, it's a constant effort to be better than you were the day before.
Yes, I really like what you said at the very beginning, because like even the steps to change what you eat and to change to change your lifestyle, it all has to start with your mental attitude. Because that's the only way you're going to have the will to change what you're intaking and what you're doing and what stimuli you're around. So I like that.
I mean, mental health is so insanely important.
You can take little steps at the beginning to help prepare yourself for bigger steps, and that's something that with discipline it becomes easier. But I'm a hypocrite because it's tough for me to do.
I mean, I think it's hard for everybody to do. The fact of the matter is that healing, because almost all of us at this point are damaged thanks to our poor environment, our poor terrain.
Yeah, well, we could go down that rabbit hole forever. It's thanks to a lot of things, but you're right.
But healing is hard work. And healing is almost a trauma on the body sometimes, and so you have to be prepared for it mentally and physically. And to do that, you have to have good relationships. You have to have low stress. You have to have good sleep. And without things like that, all the nutrition in the world isn't going to fix anything. All of the exercise in the world isn't going to fix anything.
That's right. We can maybe talk through this for a little bit, is just how much influence your mind has over the physical body.
It's incredible.
It is crazy. And I can speak to that from firsthand experience.
Do you want to talk about that?
I can for a little bit. I mean, I've been super, super anxious before, and I've made myself sick from all the stress that's been in my life, and I've made myself throw up and be just completely out of it purely from what's going on. Well, they say that all that's going on in my frontal lobe,
Right.
So I mean, who knows what's really happening up there? But it's your brain influences your cells. What influences your brain is, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that.
I don't think you were ready.
But I wasn't ready for. Why did I say that? But it is fascinating. Even, and this, I'm sure this is even mainstream science, is the connection of the mind to the body and of the environment to the mind.
Yeah, that's a good connection to make. And I mean, it's so profound what happens.
Yes, and in turn, to go full circle, sorry to interrupt you, like mind to the body, environment to the mind, bodies affect environments collectively. So it's like you mess with the cog in that, you influence that somehow, and then you've got yourself a system that could go either plus or minus, good or bad.
Yeah.
And I think it's obvious to see what's going right now. Somebody got in there and now it's bad. But
yeah. I mean, take a look at most people, especially in the healthcare system. I mean, they're all sick, they're all diseased, they're all overweight.
I know. How, why is doctors, how can there be a fat doctor? Shouldn't that be an oxymoron?
Yeah, right. Walk into a hospital, walk into a private practice, like a standard Western private practice, and they're probably overweight. Mm-hmm. They're probably stressed.
Yep.
They're probably eating junk because they don't have time, because their profession doesn't allow them time. It's not necessarily even that person's fault. It's just the whole.
And even if they are eating pretty good, I mean, they're probably not sleeping too good, and they probably are working so much that all their relationships are strained. So.
And these are the people that we expect to heal us.
Mm-hmm. That we pay big money to heal us.
Yeah.
Big money.
It's just outrageous.
It's crazy, man. If you can look. Oh, I failed at that. Momentarily, say something. If you can take back, if you go far enough back and take a look at the big picture, it's really fascinating just to think about how broken it is, and to make your individual efforts to go into changing a broken system that is healthcare and beyond, really. But
yeah,
sorry, I kind of butchered through that, but I think everyone got the idea of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, and so the one other thing I wanted to talk about was just how in the world can somebody muddle their way into health when really the only options they're afforded now are bad options. Like, if you want help in a hospital, you're going to go, and to be paid, they have to give you one of a list of approved options by your insurance company because, let's face it, you probably can't pay out of pocket because it's expensive. So we have to give you one of these codes, right? Medical coding is like a whole freaking degree now. Medical billing. I think you can get an associate's degree in it.
I mean, I know you can get a master's in healthcare administration.
Yeah. And so, like, we have to give you one of these labels, so that we can treat you with the approved list of treatment so we can get paid. And that in and of itself is kind of an issue. But the crazier thing is a lot of these treatment plans that are approved are coming directly from the people who manufacture the medicines that are being handed out. So
conflict of interest there.
Pharmaceutical companies are coming up with therapies that they're then directly marketing to these, physicians, and they're writing the textbooks that are then sent to the schools where their physicians are educated, and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just a massive cycle of a massive cycle of dependence.
Yeah, and you can't expect to find health in an environment like that.
Yeah, so we've been really negative. Like, what can we do? We kind of talked about a little, like, little adjustments, but is there any way, like, you almost have to break away completely from this system? That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about physical health, I think the easiest way to do that is to find a practitioner who's willing to work with you and not just give you a pill to fix you. I think that's the first step, and the odds are you're going to be doing 99% of the work and paying somebody to just kind of help guide you through it.
Yeah, and that's probably, the odds are, like, insurance isn't going to be around that at all, probably.
No, it's not, but I mean, it's a total game changer if you can find somebody who can actually help you figure out how to heal yourself.
Right, and that's your passion in life. I know it is. Like, you're very qualified to talk about that because that's what you want to do.
That is what I want to do.
And I can know that, like, there are people who want to be that for people. Yeah. Because there are many people who see the brokenness of it all, and it's just a matter of having the will to look for them, I guess. Which it's definitely not easy. I'm being a hypocrite, but I immediately think of, what's his name, Spring Hill.
Dr. Theron
Hutton, yeah. Like that's somebody who's local and who gets it, I guess, for lack of a better word. So they're out there.
I mean, there are practitioners all over the place, but what you have to realize is that you're not going to walk into their office and get a magic pill. You're not going to walk into their office and get some therapy where you don't do nothing. You just anything. You just lie on a table and have somebody, like, wave a magic wand over you or whatever. You are going to have to be the one to do the work for you, and nothing is ever going to change that. And it it seems like kind of a lot of money sometimes when you're walking into somebody's office and they look at you and they're like, by the way, you're doing 90% of the work here.
Yeah, but that's what it's going to take. Like, I love what you said, the magic wand. There is no magic wand to fix it. There's no magic pill that's going to make you better.
Yeah.
Like, what these people are, and what I'm sure what you want to be, is almost like a coach. It's like you have the knowledge and you have the ability to steer people in the direction, but the motivation to change and the actual, like, work on the ground, that comes from the individual. And that's very countercultural. It's very countercultural because people just go in there, there's something wrong with me, fix it, I'm paying you to fix it. and it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with what you can do for me, as opposed to the knowledge you can give me to better myself. And that's a super big difference in even individualism and collectivism, and it reflected in our society as a whole, and just that little microcosm.
I like that.
Well, I don't know. It all just came to me. I just think that is a way of doing things. And
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing things. It's incredible. It's almost like building a therapeutic relationship. Like people talk about that all the time in like psych classes, as you build that working relationship with whoever your therapist is. It's almost, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's almost the same thing in healthcare practice. Like the real tool that we're using is this relationship to affect change.
Right.
You're going to be the one enacting the change. You're going to be the one doing these things because that's the only way you can fix you. I can't do anything to make you healthier. If you've got diabetes, I can keep giving you increasingly large amounts of insulin, or you can change your diet, you can change your lifestyle and not have diabetes later on.
Yeah.
Which would you prefer?
Yeah. One of them is hard work, but one of them works and one of them doesn't.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and there are people doing this all over the country, just they're hard to find. Diabetes specifically, Jason Fung, he's up in Canada, he's up in Toronto doing his thing, and he's killing it, curing diabetes up there. Did I say curing? Curing.
Yeah, curing diabetes. Curing cancer, man.
Yeah. Josh Axe, read his books. Dr. Josh Axe.
Yeah.
His mom, he talks about her in Eat Dirt.
A Nashvilleian.
Yeah.
Fellow Tennessean.
Yeah, he lives up in Nashville. And, she was diagnosed with cancer. Lo and behold, several years later, he gets her on a quality diet. He, has her spend some time outside in the sun, eating well. She's fine.
Wait, but did she take chemo, Carson?
I do not believe so.
She has radiation. Did she have massive amounts of pills and lose all her hair? It's like you can just see right there. Well, obviously you're not getting healthier if that's going on.
Yeah, that's and I guess this kind of brings us full circle. But where did we come up with the idea that the body needs these crazy chemicals to heal? Where did that come? When did we decide that the body needs antibiotics every time my throat's a little sore? I don't have an antibiotic deficiency, right? My body is not deficient in antibiotics. Maybe I had a crap load of sugar over the holidays and I have a sore throat because my body's super inflamed and I'm detoxing. Maybe that happened. That makes more sense to me than really just about anything. We don't have chemo deficiencies. It's crazy. How did we get to this point?
Man, Carson, that is the question. That jumps into spiritual fast. Because I guess on a base level you can say it starts with the money.
Explain yourself.
So if you're healthy, if you're well, if you're in homeostasis, that's not making anybody any money.
Right, a healthy patient is. Yeah.
And a dead person is not making anybody any money. If you want to make money, you need to be perennially sick. You need to have perennial problems. You need to dish out perennial pills and alleged solutions. So at a base level, it's a huge business. Yeah. And that's it, and it grows and it has grown and grows like a cancer. So it's basically a big snowball of money. But I certainly don't believe that's what it ends with, because these giant companies are so giant that they essentially have infinite money. So you have to look for an even higher level of motivation, I guess, or even higher level of, I don't know. What's another word for that? Higher level of intent. There we go.
So just to put all that in perspective, you're talking about money.
Yeah.
The pharmaceutical industry in 2019 alone spent over $511 billion US.
Oh yeah, just $511 billion. That's like half the stimulus. No big deal.
That's crazy.
It's unbelievable. It's incomprehensible, really. That is so much. How do you can't even interact with that. That's just
right. You can't.
That's meaningless. That's just that's something so big we can't understand it.
Yeah, I cannot comprehend that amount of anything, much less money.
So I mean, there's part of your answer if you want to stick at just that and not get into spiritual motivations for things. It's huge money, and how can one man or one doctor, even if it's a big group of doctors, how can like a group of like 20 doctors who have similar holistic mindsets to you compete against the machine? I mean. Yeah. That kind of money, dude. What did you say? 512 billion? I mean,
511 billion. Yeah, a little over 511 billion.
Like
511.4.
Who's got more resources? 20 people who back terrain theory and understand or have a counter understanding to Pasteur in the mainstream, or $512 billion. Like, who's going to win that war?
Right.
Like, so that's part of the answer is money.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that you have to believe in the idea of terrain theory or anything like that, but just that you should have the freedom to make the choices you want to make, and that freedom is very, very quickly being stolen right now.
Oh yeah, especially in this past year and the current year we're in. Like, it's getting kind of scary.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it's like you are a walking. You are a walking pathogen.
Right. Yeah. Like, we're back to the whole body is dirty type deal. Yeah.
You do not have the choice to decide for yourself how you're going to use your body. That choice is being made for you because you're a walking pathogen.
It's crazy,
it just goes into the individual versus collective mindset. I mean, you've got that that already in the whole mask debate / scenario / like crap storm that is. Like, it's like, well, I mean, what if I don't want to wear a mask? Then you're treated as you are the virus. It's not like you're going to spread the corona. It's like you are the corona, you know.
Yeah,
like it's almost like it's become that, and that's going to be the same way with like in being in close contact within 6 feet. I mean, that's going to be the same way with when it comes to the vaccine. Like, it kind of people are already saying that with like measles and stuff. So I don't know. It just makes you wonder, like, what's the trade-off? What's the trade-off in alleged safety, and then the freedom to make your own choices about yourself?
Right.
Like, isn't that something that we're supposed to value?
Right. No, yeah, a guy, Sayer G, he's a fascinating person. There's a quote, and I don't remember it word for word, but the gist of it was, like, when we reach the point where we lose bodily self-possession, right? Where our bodies are no longer ours to decide what we do with them. And that seems to be, we seem to be hurtling at a breakneck pace towards that point right now. I mean, forget all the corona craziness, even a lot of these insurance codes that dictate how you're treated for an illness.
It was like this way before the corona.
Rob you of the freedom to decide what happens to your body, to decide how you want to heal. And you know, he said, and again, this is a paraphrase, but like at the point where we lose bodily self-possession, we lose our humanity and become chattel. We become things. We become objects. We're no longer human beings at this point in the eyes of whatever's going on. We're stuff. We are things, not people. That's when we turn into things. And I thought it was brilliant what he had to say.
You definitely lose your interface with the world. Like, you know, we don't have to get into what is a human being, but if your body is completely owned from birth till death, and you lose your ability to, like, interact with the world in the way this life was intended to be, whatever that is, because that's the big question, right? But if you don't even have a chance to use that avatar interface, then what the heck are you even doing here? Like, it's scary almost.
Yeah, like if I get pneumonia or diabetes, or if I get cancer.
You don't just get diabetes, Carson.
Well, you understand what I mean. If I give myself diabetes.
There you go.
I mean, you get type 1. You know, you don't have much say if you have type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, quick. Well, it's like, what causes that? But
you can look that up.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
But, you know, if I have any of these illnesses, and I go into a normal mainstream clinic, I'm not given too many options. Now, I still can refuse treatment. That is still an option that I would hold.
For now.
But there are a lot of cases with, people's kids where parents are no longer being afforded the right to decide how they want their children treated.
Right. The courts decide. Like I've seen that a ton in Canada.
Yeah.
Or the courts decide, the state decides how your kid's going to be treated, how your kid's going to be cured of this cancer, or because if you don't agree with these pre-prescribed, that's redundant. If you don't agree with these like set out solutions, then you're a negligent parent.
Yeah.
And you're a bad parent, ruled by a judge in the state, and by sometimes by an arbiter, sometimes by a jury. That you have no choice.
Which is crazy. I mean, why are you letting some other entity decide what is best for your own child, your own flesh and blood? And I mean, in many cases, these parents aren't letting that happen. They're fighting tooth and nail against it. But when did that become okay? When did that become okay?
It's like we've woken up into some kind of strange nightmarish like dream, and we're starting to realize, how did we get here? How did we get here? How did this system get so big? How did we get so unhealthy? How have we lost so much of what we had? Yeah. And these are questions, quite frankly, we don't have time to get into right now.
Yeah.
But there's something everyone should be asking, like that right there. There's something else going on here, and I'm the one that keeps trying to bring it back, but not talk about it at the same time, to the spiritual aspect of all this.
Yeah.
Like, that's where you have to go to answer some of the questions that you pose, because ultimately, like, that's the source that affects the physical, in my opinion. Obviously, I can't prove that. But that's where this is coming from. It's coming from almost like an energy perspective that affects certain systems, which affect individual reaction, and in turn perpetuates the next generation into what that energy is.
Yeah, and that's one therapy that you'll never see in hospitals, or some of these energy therapies that are becoming more popular.
But that's just like quack job stuff, Carson.
It is. It sounds freaking crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. It sounds insane. But if we look at the human body, is this. We have our own electrical field that we're
almost like a
by.
battery. Yeah,
we have ions, in our body. We have electrolytes. That's what electrolytes are. So why not? Why not?
I don't know. I don't understand it. I definitely don't claim to be an expert in health, but I do know that I'm pretty logical. I like to think I am, at least. But I can't say for sure we're both free-thinking individuals, and free-thinking individuals question.
Yeah, that's huge. Always question. I don't care who's talking to you. Always ask questions. Never accept something just because.
Right, because there is like an inane. Is that a word?
I don't know what you're about to say.
There is just an inane sense of
innate.
Thank you. Innate sense of meshing together your experience with who you are. Does that make sense? And what you like, it's like a gut feeling, but bigger than that. Like, there's a sense of knowing that thinking about stuff and reasoning brings out. Does that make sense? Like, you can mesh that against like an inner knowing almost. Like, if something resonates with you. Did that make any sense at all?
I mean, I think so. It does sound really hippy-dippy.
I don't know. It sounds like something out of Star Wars, but...
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Yeah, but I don't know. Don't you just kind of... I don't know. There has to be, like... There's a meshing together of experience and self.
I mean, that gets into some psychological stuff.
Yeah.
Where do we get our sense of self from? And where does that exist? Does it have a physical place? Is it something that is, kept in the confines of firing neurons? Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk
about... That's a whole other discussion.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a later episode, but I'm just saying that questioning things is part of that.
Yeah, it is. It's part of figuring out who you are and figuring out what you believe.
Uh-huh.
And, one, don't get that belief system from someone else. And 2, don't be mad at someone if their belief system is different than yours. And we've said that 1,000 times, but
yeah, it's tough.
it's true, and it's hard. It's really
got
hard.
That right.
Yeah. All right, guys. Is there anything else we need to talk about, Murph? Anything we missed? We're right at an hour at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. You've got the outline. Did we hit all the bowls?
I think we talked about most everything.
That's good.
So, I mean, we talked about terrain theory, guys. Look that up. It's fascinating.
Who were the 2 guys again?
Oh gosh, I'm so bad with names. I shouldn't be allowed to.
Maybe I shouldn't have asked you that. Sorry.
You know, let me.
The 2 guys. There are two men. 2 men that Carson's fixing to talk about.
Claude Bernard and Antoine Béchamp.
Yeah, look up both those guys.
Both fascinating people. Louis Pasteur, but most people know who he is. That's the only reason I'm not suggesting you look him up is because you probably know a lot about him.
Yeah, he was a Freemason.
I did not know that. That's fascinating. And I mean, he did a lot of fascinating work too. Just everyone knows about his, and we don't know about the other guys.
Yeah, he's definitely a smart guy. I mean.
So almost like Ben Franklin and Tesla, man. It's crazy.
Ben Franklin, Tesla, Edison,
and Thomas Edison and Tesla. Yeah. Wow, I shouldn't be allowed to talk.
That's okay. I knew what you meant. Everyone knew what you meant.
Yeah. I don't know why I got Ben Franklin on the brain.
Yeah, hey, you should link that article in the show notes.
Maybe I will. Yeah, there are a couple articles we'll link in the show notes.
Yeah, go ahead and send that to the email so I'll remember to do that.
So, I don't know how to do that.
All right, well, we can do that while we're not on camera.
Yeah.
So, are we done?
All right, guys.
Are we slowing the train down?
Yeah, we're
arriving at Hogwarts.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Time to put on the wizard robes, everyone.
Yeah.
Pumpkin juice is over. The lady in the trolleys come by. If there were Dementors this year, they're gone. We're eating chocolate.
Right. I like chocolate.
Let us stop the train, Carson.
All right.
Do some plugs.
Guys, thank you for listening. It's been great having you guys listen for 2020. We hope you continue to listen in 2021. We've got some exciting stuff coming. Check out our social media websites. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more content there that's not just podcast related. We'll try to do a little better about that this year.
Yeah, hopefully some changes can come in April. I don't know, maybe that's just
with any luck, I'll be moving back this direction in April, and we'll be doing a little bit more of this. Thank you guys for listening. It's been great. We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this has been a ton of fun doing this, just to have conversations and just to hopefully encourage other people to have conversations, even if it's just thinking with themselves. It's still a healthy exercise.
Talking to real people about real things.
Yeah,
maybe that should be our new tagline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That can be our catchphrase.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I like it.
You just witnessed an epiphany, guys.
That's right. An epiphany. A Patreon subscribe star. We need money.
Yeah.
We would appreciate any kind of money.
Yep.
And I guess the last thing, are you ever going to run your blog?
Yeah, it's going to happen. Dude, it's been hard, man. I've had a rough 2020. I've been pretty beaten down.
Haven't we all?
Yeah. Guys, hope y'all are doing better.
That's right. We'll get there.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun no matter what happens. 2021. Here
2021, man. What do you think is going to be, before we close out, what's going to be the big thing this year? Obviously, 2020 was the year of the corona. Any predictions? What's going to be the big thing in 2021?
The end of the corona and whatever the heck Biden's going to do.
Fair enough. Aren't they having another vote?
Oh, yeah. There's like 11 senators, funnily enough, 11 of them that are going to force another vote on the Electoral College, I think. So who knows what the heck.
I didn't even know that was possible.
There's a big old rally going down Wednesday. January 6th. Yeah, should be something. I don't know. Maybe nothing. Who knows? It's a crazy time in America right now. It's a crazy time in the whole world. 2021. Bring it on.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep.